to Coding Along. This is Sam. If you're new to this channel, yeah, I'm an electrical engineer turned software developer. And today we will be doing a coding challenge, and this is validation form. It's a validation form, and I'm sure you can see it right now. It's just a basic sign up form. And when you type the right inputs, the you get a, let me just show you instead of talking about it. Press sign up, it shows, yes, it shows an icon here, and then put an email, shows an email. You put a password. Password has to be more than 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It shows password. The confirmation has to be exactly the same with the password. And if everything is right, you get this alert that says your account has been created. Great job. So yes, this is what we're going to build. We're going to start first with the HTML, then we move to the CSS, and then we move to the JavaScript. So yes, let's get to it. So in the HTML, before we start, I want us to do the font awesome icon. I would like to just put it there and also enable font. I mean, not font awesome, sorry. Google icon. Put the Google icon here. Yeah, we have to put that in a script. Okay, now the script style. Yeah, so everything is right now. So yes, let's get to it. This is quite basic. We're going to start with a div. The shortcut doesn't work here. Start with a div. The reason I'm using CodePen is just it's better like seeing actually what we're doing because it's saving everything at the same time we are writing it. Give it a class of container. Then we have another div inside here. And that is going to have a class called header. And after that, we have a h2 tags. And inside this tag, we're going to write the create account. So we're done with this div, and then the next thing is we're going to have a form. This is going to hold all the elements. We'll give it a class name for our CSS and also give it an ID name for our JavaScript. So then after this, now we'll create another div. If you're a newbie, the more familiar you get with divs, the faster. The more you understand them, the better you can manipulate and actually just make anything you want to make. Give it a class. Class of, yeah, form control from Bootstrap. And we'll have next is our label. That's going to take the name of the individual inputs. And yes, label. The first one is going to be username. And now we create the input for the username. An ID. Username. We give it a type. This is going to be text. Type text of our input and a placeholder. This placeholder is going to say enter your username. Exactly. So after this, as we saw in the earlier video when I showed how the final project should look like, we do have two icons. We have two font awesome icons. I have them down below here, so I'm just going to grab it. And let's make this bigger. So this is the F8 check. This is the check icon, and this is the exclamation icon. So the next thing is we're going to use the small tag to show our error message. Error message, yes. So that's about it. So now we just copy and paste. Yes, so now we just change the individual. This is not going to be username. It's going to be email. The ID is going to be, yep, you guessed it right, email. Text, wait, think, email. And now it's going to be, let's just put enter your email. Enter your email. And the icon stayed the same, the error message stayed the same. Now we'll go to the third one, which is the password check. Not the password check, the password itself. Yes. and the ID is going to be password. Type password and placeholder, enter your password. This is going to be confirm password. I'm going to give it an ID name of password check. And type is password, of course. And here as the placeholder, I'll just write confirm your. Oh, let's put retype. Retype your password. Let's put a hyphen in that retype. So yeah, so this is almost everything we need for the. Okay, so we did put an extra, so we have to delete that. And now we just have our button. And this button is going to be called sign up. So this is it for the HTML. If we need to add anything else, we'll come back to it for sure, but it looks okay. And now it's time for the CSS. The only thing though, yeah, the HTML, the button, put it inside the form, not outside. And next is the CSS. And before we just do that, I'll go to the CSS and I want to add font awesome. Yes, that's it. So I just added font awesome library to our project. So now the next is we're going to do border box sizing. Box sizing. Border box. And just maybe you're wondering why am I not using an IDE that does autocorrect. This is the best way of learning actually for beginners. So it's a nice way. Having the autocorrect, it might be the faster way, but when you're starting out, I always advise to actually use use the use the ones without the autocorrect and autocomplete, because that way when you make mistakes you see it and actually you tend to write the whole code by itself and not just having the computer tell you what you should do. And it makes you remember the code more and actually understand it better. For beginners, when you're doing big gigantic projects, of course, then you can always be more efficient. So we'll be using this color code of 36D1 8E. Yes. I will align items center, justify content center, and of course display flex. Let's move this closer so we actually see that it's actually being in the center now. So we'll give it a minimum height. Give it a minimum height of 100 VH. Yes, right in the middle. And give it a margin of 0. Okay, so now the font family. We did import our font, so we should be able to use it right now. Font family. Paw. Pens. Sans. Serif. So this is all for the body. So now the next is we go to the container. Or as I like to call it some other time, the main container. That holds everything. So we'll give it a background of white. And now we can see it. Give it a border radius because those pointy borders are looking very sharp. We don't want them to cut us, so let's give him border of 5px. Border radius of 5px. And let's give it a box shadow just to make it look better and more alive. A box shadow of 0 2 pixel, yeah, 5 pixel RGBA 0 0 0 0.3. Oh, 0.4 is good. Yes, we can see it's coming alive. Give it a width of 400 pixel and max width for our phones of 100% because you have to take that into consideration. So after this now, we'll just touch on the header a little bit. Call it our header class. And we'll give the header background of, yeah, I have the color code is 5757575. Yeah, I think that's enough 5s and 7s. I'll give it a border. One pixel. Solid. and color of 505050. Now let's give it some padding because it's looking quite dull. Give it a padding of 20 px and 40 px. Yeah, bigger. Now let's justify the item just to put in the center real well. Justify content. Center. And display. Display flex, of course. Yes. So we can see it now. We're done with the header. And now let's just go to the H2. So in the H2, we're just going to give it a margin of 0. And that's about it. Now, for the form, because everything is a little bit it's touching the edges too much and it doesn't look nice at all. So let's give the form a padding of 30 px, 40 px. And if you have some questions while I'm using some things here, feel free to ask them below in the comments. I can't explain every function I'm using here or every style I'm using here. But if you have any question, if you're confused about some things, ask them in the question and I will reply. So now let's do a form control. We'll give it a position. And also let me know in the comments below if you would like a position of relative, if you would like a CSS course, because I'm thinking of maybe bringing out a CSS course, but it depends on how many people really want it. So let me know in the comments below. Bottom, margin bottom, 10 px. I'll give it a padding of, give it a padding bottom of 20 px should be good. Yes, and that's it for the form control. Now let's do the label. Form control. Oh, yeah, form control label. So the form control label, we're going to give it a display of inline block. So we can use the margin button, because if we don't, it's already in the block. It's already in the block form. So if we don't use the inline block, we won't be able to use the margin button. So give it an inline block. Computer needs some food. Just feed it right now with electricity. And yeah, let's get on. Inline block. And yeah, the margin bottom. Because if we don't put the inline block, it wouldn't show, the margin bottom wouldn't work. Of 5 px. So now it's coming more alive, it's looking more fresh, and everything is looking quite nice. So let's tackle our inputs. And yeah, form control input. So yeah, the display is going to be block. Yeah, looking way better now. Give it a border of 2 pixel. Solid color 505050. And remove those pointy sharp angles with my favorite border radius. And font family, it's gonna inherit it because I don't want to write it over again. And font size, how big should it be? Well, let's give it 14 so they know where and they can see where they should put the inputs. And the padding to make it bigger, padding of 10. Yes, looks way more better. And the width of 100%. Okay, yes. So now we should tackle our icons. Yeah, so now we style the icons. Yeah, and we do that by form control I. Put the position at absolute. Top 40 pixels. And right 10 pixels. And we should put also visibility hidden so we don't see them for now, because they only should appear when we have an error. Yeah, now they disappeared. Abracadabra. So now the next is the small tags. So the small tag too, we will hide them. I set the visibility just now. Visibility. Yeah, I didn't spell that right. Visibility. Hidden. Should disappear now. Yeah. Position absolute. Bottom 0. And left 0. And now let's go to the button. Let's see the button while we style it. And our button, give it a background color of the same background as we're using here. #366D18E. Didn't work because I didn't spell background correct. Border of 2 pixels, solid. It's gonna be the same, so I'm just going to copy this right here because I don't want to type that again. Color is going to be white. Display block. And the border radius of 4 pixels. And the width 100%. And for sure we have to put some padding into this too, to make it those fat buttons. Font size too. Of 16 pixels. And the font family is gonna be inherited. Like you inherit stuff in families. So now that we've done this, let's go back to our HTML and actually dynamically put this class as error and the email as success. So now we're going to style them to see what see what happens when we type when we type something and it's an error, and the other way around when it's a when it's a success. So yeah, let's copy this. Input dot success. Let's give it a border color of #2 ECC71. We can see the beautiful green that just appeared here, and basically do the same too. The icons think I'm calling them, but I'm not. Sorry guys, you gotta go back. And 74 C3. C3C. Oh, I just wrote the border. It's the thing with program teaches you responsibility. If your code ain't working, it's you, bro. Or so you don't shift the blame. So yes, now we can see what happens when we have an error. And the next part is we're going to just style our icons. So say the form control dot success IFA check circle visibility visible, and so we're basically saying here when it's successful we want this icon to show want this check circle icon to be visible. I'll give it a color of the same, which is green for success. Oh, this is not green. This is the red for error. So the green for success is this. Yes. So we just copy this and modify it a little bit. Instead of check, it should be exclamation. And instead of success, it should be error. Voila, it appears. And instead of being green, should be red for error, danger. Yeah, so that should be about it. Let's just check to make sure we got everything. Our error message, we don't have that yet. And we need to have our error. What happens when it's error? So it's a form control dot error small visibility visible. So this is going to be our error message. Now you can see it appears only at the place where there is an error. And the color is going to be the same as the error. So this is it. Now we're done with the HTML and the CSS, and the next part is the JavaScript. And we can go back here and remove this. Remove the error here. because we're done with the styling, and that's why we put it there so we can see what we're actually doing. And that too. So now JavaScript, which is going to hold all the functionality. First things we're going to do is we're going to get the elements. We're going to use the get element by ID to get the elements, and we're going to give them constant names. So let's do that. Constant form is equal to document dot get element by ID, and we're just gonna copy this and change the individual. Here is going to be username, email, ooh, username, email, password confirmation. So yes, there are shortcuts to this, but I'm not aware of them. Tell me in the comments if you'd like to know the shortcut, and I'll do a video showing all the shortcuts in CodePen and also in Visual Studio Code to actually make your work more efficient and faster than the manual way I'm doing right now. Password. Password. Check. Password check. So after this, we're going to add event listener. List in add event listener. Don't know why I spaced them, but yes, we're going to add event listener to the submit button. So the form, which is where the submit button is, add event listing listeners sign. Well, let's just put submit. Submit. E for events. I would say E dot prevent default. So now we prevent our mouse from reloading whenever we click it. If I see, it keeps on reloading when I remove that. So that's why we have that there, to stop it from reloading when we click the button. prevent default. So the next thing is our function name, which is going to be called inspect, like inspect the gadget. Yes, so now let's actually do the function. Let's add the function. Let's define the function, not do the function. Inspect so now how we're going to do this function. We're going to first give the values a constant name. So the values from the inputs, we're going to define them. So the values from the inputs should be defined. So constant username value, username the value, constant. No, let's copy this because writing this on and on is not going to save us time. So yeah, so now we just copy and paste. Change this from username value to email value and change this to email. From username value to password. Change this from username to password. And password check, password confirmation. Check value. Password check. So now the next step is, I would say the next step is let's set a function. Let's set our error message function. Let's set our error message function. So function set error for, and then we put input and then message. So we say constant form control is equals to input dot parent element and this is the parent element of this is form control, and say constant small equals to form control dot query selector. Small. That is our small, the message that appears when it's been unsuccessful. So after doing this, what we need to do is add the error message inside small. So add the error message inside small. So say small dot inner text is equal to message. And after that, the next thing is, of course, we need to add the class. Add error class. Form control the class name is equal to form control error. And what we'll need to do is now do for the success. It's not going to have that much, but because we're not having a message for success, we're only having a message when there's an error. So the function for the success is set success for input and message. And we have a const form control2, which equals the input dot parent element and we add the class to it. Form control dot class. The class name equals to form control success. Yeah, so this is these are the functions for the success and for the error. So now we can actually start setting the conditions for when it's a success, when the form is a success, and when the form is incomplete, so we can show actually an error. So we'll be using an if statement here. Save username. If username value is equal to, if it's empty, that's what this means. The username value is empty. What we want is it to display error. I want it to add error class. So that's what we're going to do right now. So we'll say set error for I would say username and the message that should appear. Username can't be blank. So after this, it's about setting for when it's successful. So we'll use the else for that because it's pretty practical that way. So now we're going to add success. We're going to add the success class. Yes, so set success for username. And that's it. And now we have this for the username. I'll tell you how would we do it for the email? Yeah, you guessed it. We're gonna copy and paste it and just the change the names. So instead of username value, it's going to be email value, and it's going to be email here for that message. Email can't be blank. And yes, the success is email, not username. And now we do that too for the password. Change this to password. Password value. Set error message password. Password can't be blank. And password for the success. And yes, now the last one, which is password check. Let me copy this because writing it over and over again is just, but instead of value, write password check. So, so now the password check. The password check has a condition. It has to be, but let's first see. Hmm. Okay, what else? So now they all work apart from email. So let's see email. Mm-hmm. Email value. Okay, that's why we didn't change this to email. So now we can see all the error messages. So yes, we're almost there now. It does that, and if we fill them out, yes, it clears, clears, it clears. But you see that this and this are not the same. So we have to set the functionality for that. And that is in the password check. We want to make sure that we have to set an else if. Else if password copy is not it's not equal to password check, then we want an error. So we want to set an error of to say password check password should be identical. Should be the same. So password should be the same with an exclamation mark. So now let's see if that is working. Password should be the same. So now we see it does work. And when they're the same, it goes off. So that's one of the settings we want to do. Also in this password place, I would like to set the password to be at least 8 digits. So the password has to be at least 8 digits. So that's the next functionality we're going to set to it. So we'll just use an else if. else if password value is dot length, password value dot length is less than 7, we want an error message. Password must be at least 8 characters. So now let's see if that is working. So now we see this password must be at least 8. And the moment it's more than 8, it does work. So that's another functionality we wanted to set. So, and you can set as many as you want. You can just play with this. There's so much you can do with it. Let's just also set the email. And we're going to use a regex for the email because you can do something like this. Something like this. And it accepts it, which it shouldn't because this is not. There are ways to actually bypass this and we don't want that, so we use a regex to verify the email, and for that we'll just make a function, call it email verification. It's going to take as input the email, and we'll return, have the regex code here. Dot test email. So yes, that is, let's see if it does. So you see it doesn't accept this, doesn't accept this too. And then it says something like this. So, oh, why it doesn't work even is because we haven't set it. So now we have to set the function we just created. And we do that by calling the function and giving it an error message. And we'll use the else if again. Else if it's not email let me copy the name here. It's not email. I have to put the not. If it's not email value, then we want an error message. And we just say here, email is not valid. Email is invalid. Yes, add an exclamation with the exclamation icon. So let's see this now. We have something here. The others, we remove this here. The others to show. We have the right email. Covers. Must be at least. See, they must be the same. When they're the same, it's green. So, yes, this is about it. The only thing we want now is we want that when all this is green, when all this is successful, we want an alert to show and tell us that our submission or our sign up has been successful. So how we're going to do that is we are going to have we're going to use an if statement too, and we're going to cover all of this. We're going to cover all the inputs and make sure that they are all successful. And when they are all successful, when they are not successful, we'll add a boolean to it which says false. And then when it is successful, we'll add a boolean that says true. So yes, let's do it. So here we have if username value is equal to, so if it's empty, or if email value, let's see if we can just copy and paste this. If email value is empty, or if password value, as you guessed, too, is empty, because when it's empty, that's an error. And the next is password check. If it's empty, and the next is if password check is not equal to password, because if it's not equal, it gives an error too. And the next is also the password length, which has to be more than 7. And also the email verification. Let's cover this with a bracket. So if all this, we're going to add a boolean to them. So what we're saying is display error and add error. So say is invalid, is valid is equals to false. And then else. So if all these are actually true, if all these are false, that means if all these are not errors, invalid is equal to true. And now we can just go here and say if is, okay, these two are not the same. Oh, is not invalid, is valid. If is valid, then alert alert me with form sub, or alert me with account creation is successful. So let's see if this works. We see account creation successful. If one of this is not correct, it doesn't show. It shows when everything is. Doesn't show. And shows again. So this is it. This is the form validation. Does everything. And you can still add as many functions as you want, um, as many scenarios that you want this function to like validate. So this is the basic function validation with JavaScript, HTML, CSS. I hope you enjoyed it. If you learned from it, if you gained anything, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to comment if you have any questions. And yeah, try it out yourself, practice it, add different functionality. You can change the alert to a pop-up if you would like. And yeah, just play with the code, and yeah, that's the best way to learn. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.